Ooh, I look better in the dark. I feel I look better in the dark. No. He's got the beach behind him. He was on vacation. Juicy. Yes. Let's get started. Hmm. Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah. They can hear me? Hmm. Did you say they can hear me? Oh,
Tell them
that's kind of weird.
they're trying to fix it.
There we go.
Okay.
That
They're
was,
trying to fix
Golly,
that's
dude.
just me being dumb. So I apologize,
Please
everyone.
Okay, I can hear everyone now. Okay, thank you, Jay. Love you. Okay,
everybody
that's
was watching us.
Yeah.
Our mouths were moving and weren't hearing anything. So,
So do I have to do this whole thing over?
No, you got the banner.
Yeah, the banner.
Well, I took the banner down.
Well, we'll put the banner back up. Everybody just
anyway, so everybody missed my hello.
Check out the banner. We're going to talk about creation versus evolution part 2. So check out the banner. Check out videos.prophecyandtruth.com. You can watch everything ad-free there. So yeah, so I can really be
knucklehead.
A knucklehead sometimes. I'm really technical, but I forgot to add myself to the stream, even though, because it fools me, because I can see it on the screen and it looks like we're there, but we're not actually there. So it needs to have some better
Jody,
indication.
try to take. Maybe you should start trying to talk Dan into taking ginkgo biloba. I take it. My mind's sharp.
It's just noticing that we're not actually on. The StreamYard doesn't really.
All we have is the
doesn't do a good job of letting you know if you're actually presenting or not. So anyway, let's get started. So, so I'm going to do it a little different today. Normally we look at when is the end of the world and all of that stuff. I'm going to jump right into picking up where we left off on the last live. So if you missed part 1, make sure you go check it out. Because the last live was actually, we left off where we were talking about the age of the earth. We had been through, is evolution a science? We looked at all of that. We looked at some of the words of Darwin himself and how he, basically what Darwin said 150 years ago invalidated his own theory with modern science. And then, we're looking at, is the earth billions of years old? We looked at all of these things. We looked at stalactites and stalagmites. We looked at the meandering 180-degree meanderings of the Grand Canyon. And how could that possibly have happened with, millions of years of this rushing mighty river? And, the column doesn't exist anywhere in the world. We've got polystrate trees. We looked at quite a number of things. The fact that the spinning of the earth is slowing, all of these things, and carbon dating is where we left off. And I'm going to show you some more things on this, the theory of, and I'm calling it a theory of carbon dating because it's really a false theory, because they even know, and I'm going to show you something because they even know that carbon dating doesn't work, but they won't admit it. They try to sidestep and try to make excuses for why it doesn't work like it's supposed to, because they don't want to admit that they're wrong. And that's just horrible. But we talked about Mount St. Helens, and we talked about the Uinkaret lava flows, and how they actually say that the lava flow on top is 1.5 billion years old. But the stuff buried way underneath is only 1 billion years old. So this stuff is 500 million years older than that. It's so dumb, the stuff that they say. But we talked about all that. We looked at this island that it formed in 1963, and it has all of this stuff that makes it look like it's millions of years old now, that they say takes millions of years. We looked at how old the earth is. We looked at, the Mississippi River dumps 80,000 tons per hour into the Gulf of Mexico. And they've measured the Mississippi cone. And it's about 4,400 years old. It's been doing that for 4,400 years. That's when the flood happened, 4,400 years ago. The oldest trees in the world are about 4,000 years old. I mean, there's so many things. Thanks, Jay. I appreciate that. It's just me being
he said it like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah. Well, you were looking over there, so I'm like, what? So anyway, so we talked a little bit about the Mount St. Helens eruption, and I'm going to show you something right now. It's a little snippet of a video that I'm then going to promote after it's done because it's really good. But check this out.
Is that the one you sent Bob?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
You know, I grew up in country like this. My dad and I would ride our horses up to these amazing high mountain lakes. We'd ride back into some pretty remote wilderness areas with incredible streams and meadows and wildlife. I love it here.
Oh, I'd love that on a horse.
Wow.
Oh.
Look at this canyon. It reminds me of the Grand Canyon. You got this little stream. You got these steep canyon walls. How long do you suppose it would take for a stream this small to remove this much material and cut the canyon this deep? This rock has a history, just like I do and just like you do. It came from someone. A lot of these rocks have been dated to be 350,000 years old, up to 2 million. That's pretty old. But it might surprise you to know that all of the geological formations that we see here, the canyons, the layers, even the plants, are younger than I am. When I was born, there was nothing here but a vast forest, hundreds of feet below where we're standing right now. In fact, before 1980, most people had never even heard of Mount St. Helens.
Yeah, that's really cool. Now that's a little snippet of this video, and I've got it on my site. If you go to videos.prophecyandtruth.com, this is the easiest way to find it, and go to the BP&T book video book, and go to the creation versus evolution selection there, and just it's at the bottom. I've got all of the chapters from my book in video format, and we've got Diane's creation evolution seminar that she did from our live stream a couple years ago. But then this video is right here embedded on my site. It is a really, really good video on this subject, and I highly recommend everyone watch it. But for now, let's look at some other things. And to start with, like carbon dating. So if we look at carbon dating and what it is and what do they say that they do to date rocks, right? Well, they don't use carbon dating to date rocks deep under the earth. Now, this is, of course, new information. This is stuff that they've changed over the last few decades, especially since Mount St. Helens. They use uranium lead dating, which is the PBPB lead dating that they did on the Urankaret lava flows that I was showing you, right? This stuff here, the PB lava flow, PBPB isochron age that you can see here, that's the lead that they're using to determine that this stuff is 1.5 billion years old, right? So if you look at that, that's what they use to date rocks. All right. So now let's look at, what did they come up with for Mount St. Helens? Well, they've said that 35 years after the eruption of Mount St. Helens, they dated the rocks at between 340,000 to 2.8 million years. Remember, he pointed that out in that little snippet that I gave you. Right, 2.8 million years old, and we know that they're only 35 years old. We know that for a fact. And so what did they say? Let me bring this up real quick. Here's what they're saying nowadays, right? So lead dating on Mount St. Helens, right? Well, based on the available information, it's not possible to determine the age of the assigned rocks around Mount St. Helens using lead dating. Why? Why? Because it doesn't work. Because it does not work, right? It proves that their entire process, their entire assumption of carbon dating is wrong. So what have they done? Basically, now this is how they're getting away from this. Well, so we don't even date the rocks around Mount St. Helens. We can't date it because it's too young. We can't date it. This is the excuse that they're throwing out there because it's proven that carbon dating does not work. And their lead dating does not work. It's all a farce. It's a joke. And so they're putting it out there. Well, it's just because it's so young. So tell me this right here, remember, is 1,000 years old. The lava flow that we see there's Indian artifacts in the lava that we know are from 800 to 1,000 years old. We know that for a fact. The Indian artifacts that are in the rock that they say is 1.5 billion years old, right? So when you think about the 35 years that it says between 300,000 and 2.8 million years old, this stuff's 1,000 years old. So what does that show you? It shows you that their dating system is really, really off. I mean, super off. So if you were to wait 100 years, in another 100 years, I would bet you that the rocks around Mount St. Helens would show, with their current dating methods, that it would show maybe a couple 100 million years old, right? But the way it exponentially grows here, in 1,000 years, it's 1.5 billion. In 35 years, it's a couple million years old. So it's so skewed, and they're just, so the scientists are like, well, we can't date the rocks there because they're just too young. It just doesn't work. It's, instead of admitting that they're wrong, this is what's wrong with science. This is what's wrong with science. It's just like, the medical misinformation that we've seen in the last few years, and all of the garbage that you've seen in political arenas. It is no different in the scientific community. And that's one of the things that I'm pointing out to you today, is that it is a farce. And it's because they all don't want to believe in God. And even if they say they believe in God, but they are trying to stay in the scientific community and not ruffle any feathers, they literally have to go along with the status quo and say what they're supposed to say, or they'll be slowly and surely shoved out. Their grants will be removed. They won't be able to practice science anymore. So they just go along with it because they have to keep their jobs. It's horrible. But there's there's literally thousands of scientists that are refusing to do that. They're telling the truth, but they get shoved out. They're not allowed to publish papers. They don't get published anywhere where anybody reads them, right? They don't get grants. They don't get fellowships. They don't get anything. They're slowly but surely obliterated in the science community because they're trying to tell the truth. And it's a very sad thing. So we've looked at that. I've shown you things. We looked at this UK website, where we see where things, if they're left in saline water, that it drastically affects the leaching of C14. I mean, it's just way excuse the data. And even, just like the rocks around Mount St. Helens proves to us that it's just a complete and utter farce. So there's a couple other things, and I really need to spend some time redoing this website because there's some other information that would be really nice to add. And one of them is the magnetic field around the Earth. They've studied that for about 200 years now. And they know from the study that the magnetic field is actually decaying. And it shrinks by 50% every 1,400 years. So that means if you go by their math, in about 2,000 years, no life would exist on the earth because the sun's radiation would kill everything without the magnetic field. So this is just another thing that shows us. And here's the thing, you know, the math, the study that they did and the math they came up with shows that the Earth's age is less than 10,000 years. And it fits perfectly with the 6,000 years that we know the Earth to be from the Bible and from everything else. The mud from the Mississippi River, the pine trees, the pressurized oil that's under the surface of the earth, right? It can only be expected to last about 5,000 years before it will deteriorate and burst and collapse. So it's been there for 4,400 years now, since the flood. There's so many things. And then, you know, the magnetic poles 4,000 years ago. I'm going to talk about that some more, but let's look at this. I stopped here last time because I want to show you this from the Bible, because it's so weird. I don't even understand why people are confused about the time, the ages of people in the Bible and the time frames in the Bible, because it's literally specific. And I actually did this myself. Because today with electronics, it's easy to search the Bible. We've got an electronic Bible. We can search it. I went and I found every single one of these people. I went to the book of Luke and I got the genealogy list from the book of Luke. And I went to each of the names there. You know, Enos was 90. You know, Canaan was 70. Mahalaleel was 65 when he had Jared. Right? So on and so forth. I looked up each one of those, and every single instance it says he was this old when he begat so-and-so. Every single one. So all I did was go and get all of those numbers and add them up. It's really simple. It's not even a question. There's no debate whatsoever, right? The earth itself was 1,946 years old when Adam was born, or when Abraham was born, sorry, after Adam. 1,946 years old when Abraham was born. And then he had Isaac when he was 100 years old. So it was 2,046 when Isaac was born. That is absolute 100% fact.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's, if you believe the Bible, you just believe that to be true. That is the fact of the matter. So it was 2,000 years from Adam to Abraham. And then I did the study. And, you know, when you look at, there's a few scriptures that tell us, you know, 430 years dwelling in the sojourning in the area of Egypt, right? And it was, you know, Abraham's seed, right? Was the promise made. And so the time from the promise to the bringing out of Egypt was about 430 years. Right? That's the time frame that we're given in those scriptures. And when the coming out of Egypt, and you know, there might be a little bit of a variance there. It might be a little longer than 430 years, maybe another 100 years or something. But it was approximately that. And then the time of the kings, right? It tells us that the time of the judges was 450 years. It tells us that in the book of Acts. So we don't have to guess. We know from historical evidence and everything else that's chronicled, that's historically accurate or historically what's the word I'm looking for? The historical record that I'm looking for. That's the word I was looking for. In the Bible, and everything, all of the archaeological digs, that there's 25,000 archaeological digs that have proven the Bible to be 100% accurate history. And when we look at that and we look at the Bible and we look at everything that we know about that time period, it was about 500 years of the kings after the judges. Remember, the Israel wanted kings like the other nations had kings, and God's like, I'm your king. What do you need? Okay, here's Saul, right? And Saul was a horrible king. But then David came next, right? David was the great king. And then his son, Solomon, was the greatest king, literally, that ever lived.
What was his first one that did the one that died? Did they give him a name?
I don't think that they gave him a name now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So their first one was Solomon.
David and the firstborn of Bathsheba that lived, yes. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, but then after the kings came the time frame of Nebuchadnezzar, and that's where at the time of Daniel we actually see the prophecy from the time of Daniel to the time of the end in Daniel chapter 2. There's so much in Daniel that's just, it gives us more history and really, really accurate pictures that God painted for us of the end time. It's just so absolutely mind-blowing. But we know that it was approximately 500 years of the kings of Israel until Nebuchadnezzar. And then from Nebuchadnezzar, remember, Daniel was a young man when he was taken to serve in Babylon. And then he was an old man when the son of Nebuchadnezzar, right? Remember, he decided to take all of the golden goblets and everything from the Israeli temple and use them to party with. And that's, where you see the writing on the wall, where the finger wrote on the wall, meeny, temple farsica, something or other.
Okay.
Can't pronounce it. But that, it meant your days are numbered. And he actually died the next day, when the Medes and the Persians came and took over. So we know the time frames of all of these things. And we know that it was 500 years from the kings. And then it was another 500 years from when Daniel was an old man. Because when Daniel was an old man, he gave the prophecy of Daniel 9, where it said it would be the 70 weeks. It would be 483 years until Christ, from the time of the commandment to rebuild Jerusalem. So after Daniel, Ezra King Cyrus gave that command in Ezra chapter 1, gave the command to rebuild Jerusalem. So from that point on, it was 483 years to Christ. So we know that it was 2,000 years from Abraham. So we got 2,000 years from Adam to Abraham. We got another 2,000 years from Abraham to Christ. And then, of course, we know that it's been 2,000 years. What's AD, right? After death, after Christ, right? So we know that it's been 6,000 years since the creation, based on the Bible and based on history. So we don't have to guess at any of this. That's what's so awesome. And then it's corroborated with everything we see in the earth, because we know it was 1656, I think, was the year that the flood happened. 1656 after Adam. So it's been 4,400 years since the flood. And we see that everything in the earth proves to us that it's been 4,400 years. Everything shows us that it's been that amount of time. So that's, to me, when I studied all this and learned all of this, it's like, man, that just so cements the knowledge of everything and the timing that God gave us. And it's just so spot on. It's corroborated by science, really. And that's what we're talking about in this series, is how does science show us that? Well, we've been looking at these things, right? We know that their dating methods are a farce. We know that there's no such thing as a column. The column does not exist. It's in different orders. There's missing layers. I mean, the column doesn't even, it's not even a column. It's the same kind of layering that you in that short snippet I mentioned to you, that there's layering around Mount St. Helens. That's not an evolutionary column. That's 35 years. Well, it's more than 35 years old now, but it's just a few decades old. It's ridiculous to think that science has anything right. Really, because everything that they say, we can prove to be a lie. And a lot of them know it's a lie, but they're just repeating the lie because they have to. Some of them are totally convinced because they hate God and they have to have an alternative. So they say things like the scientific community is really run by money. And we know that the secret society has everybody in their grips, with either by, forcing them with blackmail or bribing them, or they convince people that they're doing a good thing, and they use all kinds of theories to deceive people into thinking that they're right. And just like I showed you some of the stuff that science says about Mount St. Helens now, right? They change their story and they twist things and they just write it in there. Well, we really can't say what the age of the rocks are around Mount St. Helens. Yes, we can. It erupted in 1980. I know exactly how old those rocks are.
Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous. It really is. It's so dumb.
Did you say you saw it from a window or something?
Yeah. I was 18 years old when Mount St. Helens blew, and I could see it. I was living in Seattle at the time, and I could see it from my living room window. I could see the plume, the ash plume from the eruption. Yeah.
Oh.
That was amazing. Yeah. I was young and dumb. I was actually going to try to ride over there and see if I could, get a little better look at it. But as I got closer, they were closing down the highways because of all the ash. It was too dangerous. So I had to turn around. But
I'm surprised you didn't break in.
I was young and dumb. So this, the Earth's age is proven to us on two fronts, both biblical and scientifically. And it's just point blank. It's right there. It's easy. We don't have to try to figure it out. We just take the data that's available and we know what it is. So again, I have a link here to the series we did a few years ago. Diane took that live stream we did and broke it up into 3 different videos and added all kinds of documentary videos to prove everything that we're talking about. Which I'm not going to show you all those videos on this live stream, but I highly recommend watching that just so you can get that additional information. So now let's talk about the dinosaurs, because this is one of the things. It's like they say, oh, you know what? I forgot. I totally forgot to talk about radiation halos, compressed radiation halos. When we talk about the age of the Earth, this is another thing that I'm going to put in that last document. But I'm going to show you a little video here because the radiation halos, where's my little, I know I have a little document on it. Here's the video. I'll go ahead and play that for you.
I think we saw this the last time.
No, not the radio halos.
Such extraordinary values admit the possibility that both the initial uranium infiltration and coalification could possibly have occurred within the past several thousand years.
Yeah.
Because they collected samples from the Jurassic, and Eocene deposits, this would represent an evolutionary time of 37 to 245 million years, 208 million years total. The flattened pleochroic halos and the radioactive decay that took place afterwards conclusively show us that, in fact, 208 million evolutionary years were actually all one event a few thousand years ago.
Yeah, pretty amazing.
Exactly in line with the biblical account of a global flood and a few thousand years ago. Because we collapsed this huge chunk of the evolution column into one short time frame, we just collapsed this entire evolution column into one short time frame and event just a few thousand years ago.
Yeah. And so the radio halos is something I never knew about. I'm going to show you this this link here real quick. If you go to halos.com, here's where they have this information about radio halos, and it's compressed radio halos. It's something that science has no answer for. And of course, you won't hear about it in any mainstream of any kind. But the main thing here is, etched within Earth's foundation rocks, the granites are beautiful microspheres of coloration halos produced by the radioactive decay of primordial polonium, which is known to have only a fleeting existence. And that's what these radio halos are. It actually proves that it was a very short event. And I'm not going to go through all of this documentation, but I wanted to show that to you because to me, it's fascinating. The things that science finds and they have no answers for, but then, just like in Mount St. Helens, when it proves that their radio, their lead dating is so far off, but they won't admit it. And of course, they won't admit anything about the halos either. But I wanted to show that to you because it's very interesting. At least to me it is. So now let's talk about dinosaurs, now that I got that off my chest. So the important thing to remember about dinosaurs is, where did the word come from and what do they say? Right? They say that dinosaurs became extinct 50 or 65 million years ago, and mankind has only evolved in the last 5 million or so. Mm-hmm. So they say it was impossible for men to ever know about dinosaurs or ever exist with dinosaurs. And the word dinosaur really is just it's a Greek word for terrifying lizard, which is dinosauros, terrifying lizard. That's what dinosaur really means, is a terrifying lizard. It didn't even exist until the 1800s. In the Bible, like David refers to a creature called a dragon. We're going to look at what the Bible says about the behemoth and leviathan, which literally were dinosaurs that Job could see. Because Job, there's a lot of question about when the book of Job was written. But if you remember, after the flood, men lived for several hundred years still. Like the first and second generations were living 300-400 years. But then the second, third, fourth generations, they started dwindling very fast because of the changes in the earth after the flood. But the first generation still lived 300-400 years. Well, so did animals. Just like before the flood, men lived 900 plus years. Animals were living hundreds of years before the flood. So after the flood, immediately after the flood, there were animals that were of great age. Just like before the flood, they were getting very, very big. And one of the things that I like to point out is that reptiles, reptiles never stop growing. no matter how old they get, they never stop growing. So if you've got an alligator that's 100 years old, it's huge. Snakes get big. I mean, reptiles literally never stop growing, no matter how old they are. And before the flood, they were living hundreds of years. Immediately
Yeah,
after the flood.
Like the anaconda snake, they get
Really big.
But they live
Yeah.
a long time. too.
Exactly. They live very long. They get very big.
Mhm.
And that's the thing is, even after the flood, there were reptiles that were hundreds of years old. So they would have gotten very big. And that's what I believe God is pointing out to Job, because Job knew of these things. And I believe God was even saying, look, see the behemoth that I made with thee, he says in Job. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit in more detail. But I just like to point that out. Remember that reptiles never stop growing. So when life was greatly lengthened before the flood, reptiles got really, really, really big. Now I want to point something out. If mankind couldn't possibly have known about dinosaurs until the 1800s, when they discovered the first dinosaur bone, right? They didn't know about them. There was nothing ever written about them. There wasn't anything except, dragons in the Bible and of course, Behemoth and Leviathan in the Bible. And then there's dragon legends that, a lot of, pretty much every culture in the world has stories about dragons and things like that. But if they didn't know about them until the 1800s, then how could they have drawn like these pictures? Now, if you note, it's very faint, but here's the head, here's the neck, here's the body, and the feet are here. And then up here, there's a man. A dinosaur and a man together. And if you look at the enhanced the computer enhancement, this is the drawing, right? A dinosaur, a long neck, with a man together. Now, why would they have drawn? How could they have even known about a long neck
some
dinosaur?
people would say they didn't draw those they drew those things at different time periods.
Yeah, right. We know approximately how old those cave drawings are, and they're only thousands of years old. They're not millions, So they're trying. Somebody would tell you that this was drawn
at one time, and then that one.
Even millions of years ago, if that drawing could possibly have survived for millions of years, mankind was not supposed to know about dinosaurs. How did they know about dinosaurs? To draw a picture of one, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the point I'm making here. There's other cave drawings of other types, mankind with dinosaurs, there's lots and lots and lots of evidence that far earlier than the 1800s, people knew about dinosaurs. In fact, cavemen, all right, people that were drawing in caves 4,000 years ago certainly did know about them. Yeah, because they could see them. Yeah. And a lot of them, the thing is, and one of the things we're going to talk about later is, how did they get all the animals on the flood and all that, and people say, well, how'd they get a dinosaur on the flood? Well, they brought a baby, right? They brought little baby reptiles. They didn't bring a 500-year-old reptile. They brought a baby.
That would be bigger than the ark.
Yeah, right.
So they brought the baby.
What would fit.
That's what they brought on the ark.
They brought what would fit.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So what's that last picture?
Oh, the last picture is an Egyptian wall carving, of a
Dinosaur.
long neck.
neck.
It's like, how did they know about these things, right? If they didn't exist at the time, when man did. And then I've got lots and lots and lots of other art, examples of art, ancient art where they couldn't possibly have known about dinosaurs, but then they've got all kinds of examples of
Mm.
How did they know about all these creatures if we didn't know anything about them until the 1800s? And then look at this. This is my favorite of all. Obviously, the footprint of a man. And you can see the dinosaur footprint came
It's over.
after the man and actually pushed the mud while it was still soft up into the footprint that the man had just left. And then that got turned to stone.
And the foot was a normal foot, not an ape foot where
Yeah,
it's
that's
like
a
that.
human. That's a human
It's like-
foot,
Yeah.
right? That's not an ape. It doesn't have an opposing thumb for the
Like-
big toe like apes do, right? Yeah, it's not an ape. So this is, I mean, the Paluxy River in Texas has all kinds of footprints of man and dinosaur together. And you know what's funny is that, you know, the layers that they have, people try to say they're fake. Somebody made those footprints. But they study these things in great detail. And one of the things to remember is when they're digging these things up, they're actually taking a layer of rock and removing it to get to the next layer of rock. And on that next layer of rock that's underneath the layer they just removed, they're finding the footprints. It would have been impossible for someone to fake that because it was under the rock. There's so many things that people that don't want to believe in God and just cling to this religion of evolution, they'll argue and argue and argue, and they'll ignore everything. They'll ignore all of this stuff. Well, that's all fake, right? All of these things, ancient carvings, right? How did they know about this creature in Peru, thousands of years ago? How does that, it proves that mankind existed at the same time the dinosaurs.
And the guy
did.
riding on the Brontosaurus.
Yeah. I mean, it's like mankind with
Does
dinosaurs.
that mean that, so mankind lived in peace with the animals until the flood?
Yeah. And even after the flood, right? I think that's one of the things, there's so much that they don't understand about how the pyramids were built and some of the huge rocks that were moved and even under the temple in Jerusalem. These massive, multi-ton rocks were moved into position. And science is baffled by it. Well, it must have been aliens. Right. No, it's because
They already know how they did it.
yeah, we don't know how they did it. But one of my speculative things is, well, if reptiles grew and aged in the first couple of generations of man, they could have used them for workhorses, very big animals, right? And then one of the things that I like to bring up too is one of the things that I heard that just blows my mind is, when you go and tour like these ancient cathedrals in Europe, and you ask the architects, well, how come we don't build things like that anymore? You know what the answer is? We don't know how. That's true. That is a fact. You can look that up. We don't know how to do that anymore. It's knowledge that was lost. The knowledge that came from, that's one thing that it's a whole nother Bible study, really. But I'm just going to mention it briefly. The knowledge that they had before the flood, the ancient knowledge that they had before the flood, was astronomically more than the knowledge that we have today on how to do things. And they did things without technology that
That's why
blows
they
our
were
mind.
so smart.
Yeah, they imagine living 500 years. And,
A
you know,
long time to
think about the
learn
stuff you knew when, 10 years ago, that's now you just take that for granted and you learn new things and you build upon that and build upon that. Imagine living for hundreds of years and building upon all of
But at
that.
the same time, I think technology has almost dumbed us down.
It has.
So
Technology has made
don't
the
learn.
next generation unable to even think for
yeah,
themselves.
because children,
Yeah.
even children, don't do anything hands-on.
Yeah.
They look at a
That's
computer
what's-
screen.
That's what's so scary about this, is if evolution were true and we were just an accident, we would die off here real soon.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's one thing that like Elon Musk is afraid of. He's deathly afraid of that because he believes in evolution. He said his religion is evolution, and he thinks that if we don't get off this planet and
We're gonna
branch out
destroy
into the
ourselves.
galaxy, that we're going to die off, and intelligent life will cease to exist. I'm glad that God is going to return before that happens.
Yeah.
Jesus said, if I don't return when I do, he said, if the days weren't shortened, which to me means if he doesn't come when he does, that there
Right.
would be no flesh saved, is what he said. We would utterly destroy ourselves. It's amazing how dumb we are, really.
Really?
But the stuff they knew how to do in ancient times, we no longer have that knowledge. And one of the things when you read the Bible and you understand the ancient knowledge of Israel, they had stonesmiths that could do things that you couldn't even imagine. They, cutting a perfectly straight line through a slab of rock was something they could do in ancient times without the modern, machinery that we use today. And really, how they couldn't have done that. It's impossible. No, you just don't know how they did it.
They
That's
did it.
all.
Well, there's proof of
But
that happening. There's
yeah, I mean,
artifacts that are
there's
thousands
tons.
years old. And
Yeah.
how do you think they did that without technology?
Exactly. And that's, a lot of people try to say, well, there must have been aliens. No, it was just that they're a lot smarter back then than we are now. And they knew how to do stuff.
I don't think we're that human beings are dumb. I'm just saying that we I mean, like we're too dependent
On technology.
on technology.
And I agree. We're not dumber than we used to be. We just don't build
We don't
upon that
think for
knowledge anymore.
ourselves.
We don't build upon the knowledge of the previous generation, and everything has
Right.
with technology in the last couple hundred years. It's just been
Many people believe that humans were cavemen. They were idiots.
Yeah.
I know.
Our ancestors were not stupid. The
No.
Greeks were the first to have indoor plumbing.
Yeah, and they had air conditioning systems that they made through natural
Yes.
means, and just lots of things that baffle
Don't
us
forget
when
the
we
Eskimos.
discover it.
Yes.
But it's because
Don't forget
since day
igloos.
one, the creation of Adam, men were intelligent.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
We
There
weren't
never has
idiots.
been a dumb Neanderthal.
Right.
Ever.
And didn't go around dragging their women by the hair.
Yeah.
I know. And yes, we're going to talk more about that too. We're going to talk about the skulls they found and all that. But that's in a little later in our study here. But so dinosaurs. Men obviously knew about dinosaurs. Men were obviously living at the time of dinosaurs. And we know that a dinosaur really is just a big lizard. It's a big reptile, not a lizard, a reptile. Lizards are just a type of reptile. But dinosaurs are just big reptiles. And many of the species have died off.
Yeah, that's
And some of them still live today, but they don't get as big because they don't live for hundreds of years like they used to. So they don't get anywhere near as big, other than anacondas. They've found anacondas that are more than 100 feet long, big, or even bigger than that, I think. And then some, like ancient crocs they find that are really old, that are huge. And then
some of them are huge.
the Mokele Membe that we're going to talk about in a little bit. in the swamp in Africa. Yeah.
His
Uh,
accent.
It's actually alive today. But we're going to talk about that a little bit later. So first thing I want to point out is that, the first dinosaur bone ever found was a iguanodon bone. Why did they call it an iguanodon? Because
like
the
an
bone
iguana?
they found looks exactly like an iguana bone enlarged, like just a big iguana bone. So they called it an iguanodon because it was a big, huge iguanodon bone.
Anybody who has ever been to South Florida, you will know that these things are really spooky looking. And they
Iguanas.
get so close to you. They're like this long and they're like this wide and this long. Those things are so creepy.
They can get 2, 3, 4 feet long. They get pretty big. Yeah.
A lot of people have them for pets. They're pretty.
I know, but the wild ones are just like getting really daring and
yeah. The ones down South Florida, the wild ones are big and
and
you
they run really fast.
Up to it. You wouldn't want to go up to it and try to pet it or anything.
No.
Yeah. But then things like the T-Rex skull that they have, right? It looks just like an iguana skull, which is quite interesting. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But the one thing I'd like to point out is the Triceratops that they have in the Smithsonian, right? This Triceratops skeleton that they have in the Smithsonian. I should put a picture of it on here, but it's a farce. It's made of 14 different animals. Right? Did you hear me? 14 different animals used to make the skeleton that they call a Triceratops. It's like, what? And I'm not saying that there's no animal that ever existed that didn't look like a Triceratops. I'm just saying that they try to fool us in so many ways. They put 14 different animal bones together and try to say it's the same animal, and it's just ridiculous.
Do you have that picture of the iguanodon?
I do not. This actually is a adrosaur, is what this is, and this is a baby adrosaur, and that's an adult adrosaur. See what I mean when I say they took the baby ones on the ark? They were just little reptiles. They weren't huge.
They were dinosaurs.
When after they got several hundred years old, they grew to that size.
I just want to see what that picture is right there.
This is just an artist's rendering of what it might have looked like.
I know what I don't. Where's the face?
Well, this is the head.
Oh.
That's the head. That's the face. The neck goes off that direction.
Oh.
Yeah. But it's just somebody's imagination.
Mm-hmm.
But that's an actual bone that they found, right? And a baby one versus an adult one. Mm-hmm. This picture, the Triceratops fraud. I do have a picture of it. I guess it's just a little one here, but it's 14 different animals that they used to put this together. So I mean, is that just the dumbest thing ever? And believe me, since I've had this website up 18 years now, I've had this section, the creation versus evolution section on my website. I've had so many evolutionists screaming at me in their emails about how dumb I am, and don't you know that those 14 different bones were from 14 different Triceratops, and it doesn't really matter, and all kinds of they're so diluted. It just blows my mind. And, I don't care that they use 14 different animals, but they should tell us that. They should say that before they put this thing together and call it a Triceratops, right? It's just dumb. They're so intent on making us believe it that they lie to us all the time. Just like their carbon dating stuff. They refuse to admit it. They won't look at anything like radio halos. They won't discuss anything that doesn't fit with the narrative. And that's cognitive dissonance. That's delusion.
Mhm.
And the world is so full of delusion today. It's insane. And deluded is insane. So yeah, it is insane, literally. So, and here's another thing that I like to point out. Dinosaurs were thought to be extinct 65 million years ago, right? There was supposed to be this asteroid or something that happened that wiped them all out 65 million years ago. So why do they find things today still alive that were supposed to have been wiped out? Like the coelacanth is one that's just, it's so,
I want to see that.
it blows my mind. The coelacanth is a fish. And evolutionists say that this fish is one of the first creatures to crawl up on dry land and begin living on land instead of water 70 million years ago.
Okay, let me see it.
And how do they know that? Because who was there to record that information?
I know.
It's dumb, but
Yeah, I want to see
here's
it.
the thing. Lo and behold, there are living coelacanths today. And guess what? They were supposed to be the first fish to crawl up on dry land, but a coelacanth can't live in shallow water. It requires deep water with high pressure to survive. So tell me how that managed to crawl up on dry land and begin the evolutionary process, right? How did, it's just, and they're always, there's all kinds of things constantly that science discovers that proves their theories wrong. But they always explain it away, or try to. And then, of course, there's so many people that want it to be true. So they just let them explain it away and don't call them out, which is what we should be doing. We should be calling out science on all this ridiculous stuff they want us to believe. Supposedly megamouth sharks died off 60 million years ago. But here was one that was caught in Hawaii in 1984. How did, it didn't die off 65 million.
Like that.
Oh my God.
I think I've seen some people. I think I had a neighbor that looked like that.
Yeah, it looks like George. Yeah.
Wait a minute. Don't talk about George.
So anyway, they're catching they're finding these things that still exist. And you know why they thought that the coelacanth was one to crawl up on dry land? Is because in the layers of the earth, they found it, at a point in the layers where they thought it must have been one of those transitional forms, even though it's just a fish, right? There are no transitional forms from a coelacanth to some crawling creature, but they say that it does do that, even though there's no evidence or no transitional form at all anywhere ever. But they say that because it was found in a certain layer. But when you understand the layers, and we're going to talk more about the layering, because what happened at the flood was a massive, massive event that caused everything that we see. I talked a little bit about it. We're going to talk more about it, but like a plesiosaur, right? This is a sea monster, right? That's supposed to have died off millions of years ago. In Santa Cruz, 1925, one washed up on the beach. It's dead, but it's obviously, they still have the form of the creature that they could see, and it was a plesiosaur. That a long neck where you would see the head swimming above the water, right?
Oh,
and the big body of the creature underneath. That's what it was.
Like Yeti?
Like what?
Like Yeti?
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 Yeah, it's like a
The
ice
unknown
age.
thing.
Well,
out
a
in the
Yeti is
water.
supposed to be a big, huge, like bear type animal, right? Or ape bear kind of
What do
thing. A
you call
Yeti.
it? Bigfoot, like.
No. The dinosaur thing that was out in the water in Ireland.
Yes, I know what you're talking about. That is a plesiosaur. Yes. And I forget the name of it now, but yeah, there's been a lot of sightings of the thing in the lake. Very, very deep lake, and that lake is very deep, and it actually very deep down, it has caves that actually connect to the ocean. So it's a huge, very deep lake, and they found the Loch Ness monster.
Yeah, that's what it is.
That's what you're
It's
talking
got
about.
another name too. I just don't remember what it is.
Yeah, but yeah, that's supposed to be a plesiosaur. Yeah. And then, the elephants with a hump on their neck, it's supposed to have died off at the last ice age, right? And we're going to talk about the ice age here in a minute too. But they actually have, living elephants with the hump that's supposed to have died off at the last ice age. They still exist.
When I was doing the video, they've got elephants that look different in one part of the world from the other part of the world.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got a different type of elephant, like in India or something. I think
right. African elephants, Indian elephants in different places. Yeah. They're very different. Yeah. That's because they didn't evolve differently in the different continents. It's just the genes of the elephant type that were more dominant in that area of the world.
The ancestors from the dinosaurs that lived in that part of.
Well, yeah, except elephants don't. Elephants, I don't know I suppose an elephant, is it a reptile or it's a mammal?
It's a mammal.
Yeah, so it doesn't continue to grow.
Yeah. Just like the sea cow. What are they called here in Florida? What are the sea cows?
What
are they called? Jody, what are the little sea cows in Florida? Manatees.
Manatees, yeah.
They're really cute.
Yeah, but they're a mammal too.
Yeah, they're a mammal.
So then here's another thing. Trilobites and graptolites. They're called an index fossil, right? Because they're supposed to have evolved from bacteria 4 billion years ago and went extinct 500 million years ago. So these things are not supposed to have existed even during the time of the dinosaurs, right? 500 million years ago. But lo and behold, they found living graptolites. They found graptolite fossils in modern materials. Back from the dead, they say, right? Here's one where I think it's in a boot print. Yeah. A boot print with a graptolite fossil in it. Tell me that's 500 million years old. This is a modern boot. It's just, it's so dumb. What they try to convince us of. And I'm going to point this out too, because I want you to look at this. This is in Colorado. It's the Dinosaur National Monument in Colorado. And they actually, when they discovered this, they built a building around it to protect it, because this is full of bones of dinosaurs, just dinosaurs galore.
Wow.
And one of the things that they've found is it has an Allosaurus, Apatosaurus, Diplodocus,
insects,
Stegosaurus, ornithopods. All of these dinosaurs that were supposed to have lived 65 million years ago, but you're reading ahead of my note here. But they've found alligators, turtles, fish, modern fish that look just like they do today. Plant matter, wood, coalified wood, frogs, freshwater clams, trilobites that were supposed to have died off 500 million years ago.
It's all mixed.
And it's all mixed, all jumbled up in this big graveyard. Now, what do you think caused that? They find these graveyards all over the world. This is just a big, huge one that they've preserved. And it's actually a place you can go visit. I think we should go visit it one of these days. That'd be kind of fun to go there.
Where is
All of
that?
us.
and go visit that.
All of
Yeah, in
us.
Colorado.
Annie, Jody,
That would be
Bob.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we should plan a trip,
Where is it?
but it's in Colorado, right on the border of Ohio.
Huh?
Or
Colorado.
or not Ohio,
Iowa?
not
Ohio is on the opposite
Montana.
side.
Iowa. Maybe it's Iowa.
Iowa?
Yeah, it's one
No,
of the
not
neighboring
Iowa.
states.
Iowa's
Right.
below me.
Okay, so it's Iowa and Colorado. Yeah, it's right on the border there in Colorado. Oh, but this is, they found sponges, they found trilobites, they found all kinds of
Iowa.
non-dinosaur reptiles, right? Non-dinosaur reptiles, and some like the regular alligators and turtles and fish. And, tell me all of this stuff died millions of years apart and somehow got fossilized in the same rock. I mean, that's just stuff like this just blows my mind that the scientific community still sticks to their theories of evolution when this stuff proves it completely impossible. There's so many things that prove evolution impossible. It blows my mind. And then the Mokele Mimbe that I talked about. This is a creature that, take a look at this. A missionary goes to Congo, Africa, and he shows them a picture of this thing, and they say, "Oh, yeah, we killed one of those once." Yeah, they live in the swamp in Africa.
Well, you're thinking of Wyoming.
No.
Yes.
Colorado.
Here's Colorado.
What's over on that side? What's
Oh,
on the
it's
right
on
side?
that side?
It might be
Montana.
It might be Utah.
Kansas.
Maybe it's Utah.
Utah.
Kansas
I don't remember.
Is
I don't
south of
remember.
Minnesota.
I don't remember exactly what it borders. I'm sorry.
It goes Wyoming.
But it's in Colorado on the border somewhere. So
Okay.
anyway, so the 55,000 square mile swamp in Africa, Likovala Swamp is what it is. 55,000 square mile swamp. That's the size of Texas. A swamp. I mean,
Where was it?
people don't
Africa?
go. Yeah, it's in Africa. And people don't really go in there in depth, right? They live around the edges of it. And these African tribes have seen this creature that lives there in the swamp.
Yeah.
Right? It's they call it a living dinosaur. It's not a dinosaur.
It's just a lizard.
It's just a living creature, right? It's a Mokele Mimbe, is what it is, And they said they killed one once, but everyone who ate the meat died, so they don't hunt them.
It's cursed.
But they're a living creature. And you know what? This is a long-necked dinosaur
In Congo.
that doesn't live for hundreds of years. It's a small version of it because they no longer live for hundreds of years, and which is why we saw big, huge ones before the flood and even immediately after the flood. So, I mean, there's so many things about dinosaurs it's really cool to study this stuff.
Yeah.
And
there's a lot of animals that aren't going to stick around when mankind is taking over every inch of the planet.
Yeah, exactly.
right. And a lot of them are going extinct. I mean, we've had thousands of species go extinct since the flood. Tons and tons and tons. So the next one is what the Bible says about creation. And then the firmament, and then the dinosaurs in Job. There's a lot. So let's look at this one. I want to look at, there's some news I want to show you today and a couple of video clips that I want to show you, but I wanted to do this first and just follow up with where we left off last time on this study. But so let's look at this real quick and just plant a seed in your mind. Hopefully people watching this will actually go and do some study of their own, read the Bible. If you haven't read the Bible from cover to cover, just start now. Start right now. Read the Bible from cover to cover. It doesn't take that long. I used to read the Bible 2 or 3 times a year when I was really studying it for long periods of time every day. I don't do that anymore, but I used to 2 or 3 times a year. It's not that hard if you just spend time with God and spend time in His Word. Yeah. So do that if you've never done it. But let's look at what the creation account says. So, it's all right there in the Bible. And so when we look at the creation record, I'm not going to read through the entire thing, but I want to point out some things. As he said, well, let me point out one thing first of all. A lot of people say that between verse 1 and verse 2, there was billions of years. People try to say that. They try to put evolution in the Bible. But it's dumb. It doesn't work, for one thing.
Yeah.
And trying to say there's billions of years between here, and I've seen people even saying that, there's two creation accounts, because in verse 1, God created the heaven and the earth, and then in verse 2, there's another creation. Now, it's like if you were telling a story, you would say, Joe Bob did this.
Joe Bob.
And then if you were going to give him details, you would say, Joe Bob did this, and this is how it started. He did this, and then he did that, and then he did that, and then ended up with this. Well, that's all we're seeing here in the Bible. This is a blanket statement. God created the heaven and the earth.
And
here's how he did it.
Yeah.
And people try to say that the earth became
It doesn't
corrupt.
say that.
But I want you to note something here. Let's go look at what this actually means. Because if you look at the actual word and what it says, void, right? What does void mean?
No shape or anything?
Let me move this so we can see it better. If we look at void, it's to be empty, a vacuity, right?
Mm-hmm.
The earth did not exist. The earth was without form. It was formless and void. It was empty. The earth wasn't even there yet. That's what that means. The earth was formless and void. And darkness was upon the face of the deep. The deep, the waters of creation, the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. The waters of creation, just like we see the sea in the book of Daniel, it's the sea of creation. Mm-hmm. It's not a physical ocean, right? Mm. The waters of creation, the Spirit of God. The Creator is the Holy Ghost, it is the Spirit, which is God, that moved upon the face of the waters. So the earth wasn't even there yet. And God said, let there be light. And he saw that it was good. Now, if people say that there was corruption on the earth here, between there and there, well, what do you mean? It was good at this point. So how could it have been corrupted at that point? Yeah, just their arguments don't make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah, they just don't want to believe what's in front of them.
Yeah, exactly. They're just going to argue. Mm-hmm. And you know what? When people come to me like that and they won't listen to scripture and they won't listen to reason and they won't listen to anything, and all they do is argue. You know what? I say goodbye. And, I'm not going to sit there and argue back and forth and debate someone who's not even going to listen to truth, no matter what.
Doesn't the Bible also say that if you start adding and taking away from the actual word
all
of God,
the plagues will be added to you? Yes.
So if you're going to think that there's something there that isn't actually saying that it's there, you're in big trouble.
Be afraid. Yes, exactly. So So like I said, I'm not going to read through all this. We're going to spend some time on this, on the particular creation stuff when we look at the firmament and the layers, because it's really important to understand that. But if you've never read it, go read it.
Yeah.
And I don't mean just read through it once. I mean, spend some time studying, because there's so many words here that mean so much.
Yeah.
And you have to understand it. But the points that I make in this is, God bless them, and everything, it was good, right? Everything was good when he made it. And at the end, everything was very good. It wouldn't have been very good. It was very good at the end, right? He saw everything he'd made, and behold, it was very good. There was no corruption at that point. None. So it wouldn't have been very good if Satan had already fallen and was in control, like people try to say, right? So, the point that I make here is it was good. There is no gap between verse 1 and verse 2. It's just a blanket statement, and here's how I did it, and the earth didn't even exist at this point until he, the firmament in the midst of the water, let to divide the waters from the waters, and let the waters under the heaven be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear. That is when the earth was created, right? When he put it together. And literally all of the matter, this little statement, right? They gathered the waters together and divided them with the firmaments, and then dry land appeared. The entire universe, all of the matter of the universe was created in that day.
Mm-hmm.
The matter of the universe, the planets, the solar systems, the galaxies, the entire universe was created on that day. And you know what? All of that stuff out there right now, it's all going to go away when Christ returns. And he's going to remake heaven and earth after the 1,000-year reign. So he's going to remake the entire universe.
I can't even imagine, because that one's going to be for eternity. Why would he
make a new universe if we haven't even seen the universe right now anyway?
Well, it's because just like God he didn't make us to die.
Yeah.
Right? God made everything and gave us every chance. If Adam and Eve hadn't sinned and nobody had sinned after that, there would be no death.
Yeah.
Death did not come until sin.
Yeah.
We would have the entire universe to explore as our playground, which we're going to have at the end of the 1,000 years when he remakes it all. He's going to get rid of all the corruption because of man and evil.
Well, we won't need a spaceship.
And recreate everything from scratch.
So I wonder if the atmosphere is going to be different. It's going to hold glorified bodies now. So we don't need a spaceship to get into.
Because he'll take the angels away from the gate of the
right, and the whole earth will be like the home base of people. It's going to be where his seat is, right? So we're going to be, the New Jerusalem is going to be here, and that's where the home base is going to be on this planet. Yeah. And we're going to have the entire universe as our playground. Yeah. I mean, when you really think about what God said in his word, it's way different than the ideas that were taught in church and
we're all going to have mansions,
schools and things like that.
We're all going to have a mansion.
We're not going to have a physical mansion. A mansion is used to describe our home. Yeah. And you know what?
It is.
Who knows what your home might be? An entire galaxy?
I'm going to have a glorified hut on the beach.
Yeah. You're gonna have your beach, and I'm gonna come visit you there. Yeah? And we're
I
gonna
might
run together.
have a gate set up. Yeah.
I'll ask for permission to come in.
I'm
So,
gonna build a wall.
From sea to shining sea.
you know, the only people that are going to go to heaven are going to be loving people.
Oh my
And,
gosh.
you know, there's not going to be any mean people that are going to want to break into your home. So it's going to be awesome. There's going to be no pain, no sorrow. God's going to wipe our tears from our eyes. And there's going
So
to
a
be
very
no more
low
death.
wall.
What? What?
So a very low wall.
Yeah. One you can step over.
So
Fill the wall.
Anyway, I
from
mean, that's-
sea to
that's-
shining sea.
yeah, that's what God promises us. And the way God did things in the
Oh my
beginning,
gosh.
he planned, even though he knew what we were going to do, he set it up so that if we didn't, things would be different. He set it up. That's why death wreaks so horrible on our souls.
Yeah.
Why death is so hard for us to take, because we were not created to die. We were never meant
Yeah.
to die. Sin
And our
brought
bodies
death.
are toxic.
Well, they are now because of all the poisons. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
our bodies are really
But-
toxic to
But
the
before the
ground.
flood, we're going to talk about in the next coming
I believe
lives.
that.
Before the flood, the earth was a much different place. But let me wrap this up, and we'll just continue this. What's today? Sunday. On Wednesday, and just note a couple of the scriptures here, right? That everything was good throughout the creation. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times it was good, and then it was very good at the end. It was all good. And at the 6th day, when he made man. And he, there's so many things about this. We'll pick this up in the same place. But here's one of the things that I like to point out. The Bible itself says that evolution is not a real thing.
Mhm.
Because if evolution were true, all flesh would be the same.
Yeah.
We came from
it's
the
true.
same flesh in the past. But all flesh is not the same flesh. There's one kind of flesh of men, another flesh of beasts, another of fishes, and another of birds. God made us different than the animals.
Mhm.
We
Yeah.
didn't come from the animals,
Mhm.
and we didn't all come from the same flesh. The Bible specifically points that out.
Yep.
So we'll pick that up when we come back on Wednesday. But there's a couple of things. I'll make sure I talked about all of these things. Yeah, dating methods, and then the video that is Genesis history video that I pointed out at the beginning. Definitely watch that. It's really, really good. So
News.
here's a video debunking the fake history of Palestine. And I like to talk about this because it's such a controversial thing. There's so many people that are confused about where Palestine came from, what it is. And, I've talked about it many times, where Palestine didn't even exist until, 100 years after Christ or so, when the Roman emperor, after the Jews were all dispersed to the nations, the emperor renamed the area of Israel to Palestine to spite the Jews. And so it was a name of a region of the earth for a long time, but there were no such people as Palestinians. They're just Arabs that lived in the area. They're mostly nomadic Arabs that live there. But here's a little video that I want to show for you because, actually, I'm not going to show you this video. This video here is about an hour long. But I want to encourage everyone to read it or to watch it because it's a really, really good video. I'm going to show you the page. It's jihadwatch.org is what it is. It's the name of the website.
Yeah.
And he's a really formidable knowledge on Islam and where it came from. And this video is he's just a guest on another podcast where they talk about this, but it is very, very good. So go to jihadwatch.org and look for this video. Debunking the fake history of Palestine, because
he is really
it's
good.
really, really good. It's about an hour long, so I'm not going to play it, obviously, but there's another video I've got to show you. But I definitely wanted to encourage people to watch that. Now he is I'll just tell you right up front, he calls himself a Greek Orthodox Christian. So he's a version of Catholicism. So know that right up front. The only reason that I pay attention to his stuff is because he really does have a lot of knowledge on Islam. So much that he's like an encyclopedia of Islam. So but just know that he's not really a Christian that we would say is a Christian. And then I wanted to point this out. Mom Donnie, the guy that wants to be the mayor of New York.
Yeah.
Well, Catholic
Christian.
Catholics call themselves Christians, right, Jay?
Yeah.
I mean, they do, even though there's no Christ in their version of salvation.
I've never heard them actually say
that. And Greek Orthodox do. Oh, yeah, I've heard Catholics call themselves Christians lots. Yeah.
The one in the neighborhood doesn't call themselves a Christian. She just calls herself a Catholic.
Yeah. But they do. They call themselves Christians. And he's like I said, he's a Greek Orthodox, which is a type of Catholicism.
Well, that's Russian. Yeah. I mean, aren't they Greek Orthodox? They're Orthodox.
Well, the Russians have their own Orthodox. Yeah.
Oh, not Greek Orthodox.
Yeah, it's a different
Orthodox.
There's so many different, it's like there's 40,000 denominations of Christianity, right? 40,000. These are just some of them. And, that's why we need to read the Bible. We need to just believe what the Bible says.
We're supposed to be of one mind.
We should love Jesus, and we should believe the Bible and not argue about these false doctrines, because most people that are arguing false doctrines, they're just regurgitating the lie that somebody else taught them, and they don't even know. And like you said, we're supposed to be of one mind. Yeah. We should all read and believe the Bible and believe the same thing, because there really is no controversy about any of the stuff in the Bible. If you just read it from cover to cover, it's very clear.
There's a lot of people out there that believe that everybody interprets the Bible their own way.
Yeah. And that's a lie from Satan.
I can't stand that.
People will argue that. Well, you interpret it your way. No, the Bible interprets itself.
They're not reading. So.
And that's why we need to read the whole Bible, because it interprets itself. If you read it from cover to cover, it explains what those hard to understand places mean by just understanding the whole Bible in context. Yeah. So, Mom Donnie, a 12er. Yeah. If you don't know what that is, I'm going to tell you right now. What that is. A 12er is a sect of Islam. They call themselves the 12ers because they're waiting for the 12th Imam to come up out of the well he's been hiding in for 1,700 years. Or no, 1,400 years. So supposedly the 12th Imam, the Mahdi, is going to come crawling up out of a well that he's been hiding in for millennia and take over the world. He's going to establish the caliphate, all the things that we've talked about in the Islamic prophecies that Satan set up. But it's interesting that Mamdani is actually a sect of 12ers, which is mostly Shiite Muslims, which is Iran. And it's interesting that he's a 12er. I didn't know that until just recently. But that's a very
better watch out.
Look up the Islamic 12ers, and you'll have your mind blown what he actually believes. Yeah,
they're gonna be voting him in, and this is scary. Now it
is scary. He will utterly destroy New York, just like London's been destroyed.
Yeah.
So I am going to show you this one. This is a quick minute or so video on. I've got this article on, the podcasters. I wrote this back in 23. If you haven't seen it, please check it out. It's, the popular podcasters, tools of Satan. You can search for that on my site, on my newsletters. But we had this article, or he had this interview with Alex Jones in 2023. And what blew my mind was Alex Jones was talking about his sick religion, the belief in the power of man. It's kind of like Hinduism, universalism, where, we're all eventually going to become gods kind of stuff. And, I know Alex Jones actually claims to be a Christian. Sometimes it's like, no, he's a Sikh. He does not believe in Christ. He's not a Christian. He talks about, he even says Revelation was given to John by the universe.
Yeah.
Not God. And you know what Tucker Carlson said? I agree with you completely. That's a direct quote. I agree with you completely. Right after Alex Jones was talking about his Sikh religion and all the things that he believes about it. I mean, so the reason I show you that is because if, you can't believe that this man is our friend. He is controlled opposition. And just watch this, the flip-flopping that it shows you in this little 1.5-minute clip here. It's pretty interesting. If it shows up. No, thank you. No, thank you. So I'm gonna have to refresh, get the video to show up here. Come on, you can do it. I don't know why this website always does this. You're not gonna do this to me, are you? Come on, bring me the video. No, you can.
Maybe you can pull it up somewhere else.
Let me try it on a different browser. We'll try that. We'll try a Brave browser, see if that works. Oops. Let's see if it'll come up here. And if it won't, what are we doing here? Don't go here. The Brave browser, I really don't like. They did something in the later versions of Brave. It's like everything does not connect until you bring up the first page, and then stuff will start connecting. I've stopped using it because it's not working. It's still not coming up. Still spinning now. Let's see. Come on. There it is. Okay. So, finally. All right.
Hello and welcome to the very first episode of Tucker Carlson Today. We had a broad range of possibilities for the first person to talk to as we begin this new show, this new series. But really, in the end, there was only one choice. The one person we know who has crystal clarity on what's happening, not just in this country, but in the world, someone who's watched it and chronicled it for years now. His name is Douglas Murray.
I know Douglas, and I think that I've always gotten along with him, and I think that he's clever, but he's hardly an expert on anything. What?
This is the new Tucker.
President, I think he probably canceled the next election if he got elected.
It happened because we didn't understand the country we preside over. And by we, not just the political class in D.C., but anybody with authority or money in the United States.
Referring to Trump, Carlson says, I hate him passionately. I can't handle much more of this.
We are very, very close to being able to ignore Trump most nights. I truly can't wait, Carlson texted.
That Trump is, in his words, a demonic force, a destroyer, but he's not going to destroy us.
It's such an honor to be here, and it's wild. Just another day following Bobby Kennedy Jr. at a Donald Trump rally in Madison Square Garden.
America's supporting Israel because it's an ally.
I don't even know what those words mean. I'm just saying my principle.
They're an ally, right? I mean, they both.
I don't know what that means to be an ally.
Qatar is like one of our closest allies in the world. The largest American air base in the Middle East is in Qatar. They're a close ally of ours.
The Chinese coronavirus is a major event. It will affect your life. And by the way, it's definitely not just the flu.
Was it 2012, 2013? I read up more people died of the flu that year than COVID.
Yeah. Would you know anyone who died of COVID?
Did people really die of COVID?
I don't know. I never knew anyone who
People
did.
did die. Sorry.
Technology.
but-
They've only been used once. If you end up killing, incinerating tens of thousands of civilians, that's just a bad thing. Let's just be honest, that's just a bad thing. And I just don't understand why you're not calling for the use of nuclear weapons against the Ayatollah right now. I'm serious. If you really believe there's
the use of nuclear weapons,
whatever it takes.
So you're a 15 or 16, 17-year-old boy. You are driven by biology to procreate.
Yes.
So you're either going to be inflicting your attentions on one of your peers, who's, let's be honest, not ready for it. She's going to get hurt emotionally, or you can have a safer, albeit technically illegal, outlet with a woman who knows what she's doing. You're not going to hurt her. You know what I mean? Like, this is harm reduction.
Now admitting that Emmanuel Macron was only 14 when they met, when he was in that play.
That's
15,
true.
she says, whenever this affair happened. And
I'll just go with 15 and say that's wrong.
Yeah.
Isn't that child molestation?
So now it's wrong.
Theme. It's the larger point that Buchanan is making, that perhaps American involvement in World War II was a mistake, that people are upset about, and that I think you can take him to task over, because I think it's a wrong and in some ways an odious point.
I think the story we got about World War II is all wrong. I think that's right.
And you can hardly say that this country won that war. In what meaningful sense? The summer after my freshman year, my roommate and I decided to go down to Nicaragua for the summer and work and, get involved in the war.
I think anybody, by the way, who serves in a foreign military should lose his citizenship immediately. Sharia is intolerant.
should.
Women have, in the Quran, fewer rights than men do. I think that in every Muslim majority country in the world, non-Muslims are treated, have fewer rights.
Sharia law is bad, Seth. I don't know if you've heard that. It's bad. It's worse than what's happening in New York and Detroit. It's just bad.
Yeah, why is
Weird.
that,
Why is that
so
funny?
funny?
Oh, yeah.
Why
did he
is
laugh
that
at
hilarious to him? That's just that he is. I
Weird.
have to point these things out. That's all.
I know.
What'd you say, Diane?
He's weird.
Yeah. Well, he is controlled opposition. 100% the enemy. And that's why I just want everybody to understand there's lots of these people, right? Lots of these people that say they're our friends that really are not. So
Don't you think that people that deal with him, that they think he's a joke too?
Well,
Probably,
some probably
yeah.
do.
Because
Probably.
I mean, we're not the only ones who notice this. I'm sure that people that he has talked to in the past, they're going, wait a minute, you told me something different.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But
Yeah,
but they
there's-
don't turn against each other, though, because
Well, yeah, typically
they're too afraid, probably.
if they're part of they, then they're not going to call each other out, right?
Mhm.
Majority of Americans now believe that Israel is guilty of genocide. This is very disturbing. The majority
Let's
of
go
Americans.
back to the Holocaust.
I know, and a lot of people are claiming the Holocaust never even happened. And
Yeah,
Israel is
that's
guilty of genocide. We've talked about that over and over and over on this podcast. Where there's no genocide. How many Arabs lived in Gaza in the 60s? Like 3 million, or a couple of million or something, and they've actually like tripled in size since then. So how is there a genocide if they're growing? It's so ridiculous.
Majority of Americans.
Yeah, and this is one of several articles I saw about where it actually gave a percentage. It's actually higher than 50% believe Israel's guilty of genocide.
Okay.
Yeah, because of the propaganda. Propaganda is such a powerful tool, and that's why they use it. So, just the mainstream media, Google, searches on the internet, everything is controlled. Your social media is controlled. We all know that, right? And the propaganda is such a big tool, and it's sad that it works. On this note of the two-state solution, we're waiting to see if it happens or not, or if it's a single-state solution, or if there's a peace treaty that's going to be signed this year. Germany is now recognizing a Palestinian state. So it keeps going around and around. So
I know, and this
we'll
thing
see
with
where it ends up.
Russia and Ukraine, I just don't see this coming to an end. I'm sorry, but
Well, the Russia-Ukraine war. But
What
we're
did I
talking-
say?
we're-
what did
the
I say?
Russia-Ukraine war.
Oh.
We're talking about Palestine here.
Yeah, I know, but
Israel.
I'm just saying.
So the
there's-
war on the other front, right? Is
Yeah.
we might not see the end of that, and it's not looking very good at this point. But and then this is what Islam is doing. In Kentucky, the Islamic scholar is praying that Allah will guide Americans so that U.S. becomes an Islamic country, which is what they're doing in Europe.
Yeah, the devil's probably trying to control Americans.
Yeah, that's what they're doing in Europe, and that's what they want to do very badly in the United States. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's why if Mom Donnie actually gets elected in New York,
that's gonna push it along.
That's gonna mean real big trouble.
Yeah. So now the war that you were talking about, China rejects Trump's proposal for nuclear disarmament talks, where he wants to get the U.S. and Russia and China involved in talks, and China's rejecting it.
Yeah.
Almost $1 billion in munition sales to Ukraine, but I want you to notice this. They're going to pay for it with financing from the United States. They're going to buy our weapons with money we gave them.
Yeah. Because Biden gave them billions of dollars and they're just going to give us our money back.
That's just like, wow. Yeah. So this is how we make America great again.
Yeah,
Put God first.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, we need to put God first. We've seen how Trump thinks he needs to make peace with countries because he wants to try to get into heaven. He's so deluded. He is literally surrounded by false teachers and false prophets in the White House. And it's horrible to see. I wish there was some way that I could talk to him. I know that God may send a real teacher, a real prophet to him. I hope he does. I hope that Trump somehow learns the truth, but he's under delusion right now. And I like what Trump is doing for this country. Mm-hmm. I love that, and I voted for Trump, and I would vote for him again.
Yeah, me too.
But he unfortunately does not know Scripture. He does not understand salvation, and making America great again means putting God first, means making it a Christian nation, not a Catholic nation, not a Protestant or Baptist or Lutheran or anything else, but a true Christian nation, like the book of Acts Christian, real Christians. Yeah. People that love Jesus. Yeah. That's the only way to make this country great. And then finally, this one I stole from you.
He stole this one from
Paul never said we should respect each other's beliefs, right? That's what this whole interfaithism, everybody's got to just get along and just tolerate everybody else and just, the whole, what's that? The word's slipping my mind now.
Interfaith.
I got interfaith on the brain, but what's the whole other thing that people have on their bumper stickers? Coexist. Thank you. That whole coexist idea is from.
That's why I'm co-host.
Yeah, so you can remind me of words I forget.
Yeah.
So, but the whole coexist thing is a lie from Satan. It really is. Mm-hmm. The Bible does not say to respect other beliefs, false teachers, even false Christians. We should not respect their beliefs. No. We should instruct them on what the truth is.
Right.
And, if anyone preach a different gospel, let them be accursed, Paul said.
Yeah.
This whole churchianity nonsense is a lie from Satan. Coexist, interfaith, it's how Satan is fooling the world and deceiving the world. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 is happening right before our eyes. The lying wonders of Satan is fooling the entire world.
The thing about it is if you actually read Acts, like I'm sure people are like, well, then what is the church supposed to be? Read Acts.
Read the New Testament. I mean, Paul talks about the church and what the church should be doing in a lot of his epistles. The book of Acts shows us what we should be very serious about.
That's exactly what we have. Yeah. Now Bob is in our little group. When we do our prayer before Bible study, that is our church.
Yeah. This is, We, as people that love Jesus,
Yeah.
we should be
We come
working
together.
and worshiping, and praying together, and working together to serve the kingdom of God for Jesus. Yeah.
Yep.
And then I was watching this, I always watch The Enemy, and, Michael Knowles is a Catholic. So he says stuff that just blows my mind sometimes. He said a sure sign of madness is when someone tells you he totally understands the book of Apocalypse, which is the book of Revelation. He said that's a guaranteed sign of madness.
Well, then I guess we're mad.
I must be mad because God has given me understanding of that book.
We're knowledgeable.
And
mad but knowledgeable.
He'll find out.
And I don't think I'm mad, but that's a Catholic thing. He just said it like it's just a thing that everybody knows. Well, a sure sign of madness is when someone tells
you they understand
that's
Revelation.
Because that's a Catholic thing. The Catholic Church does not want us to understand the Bible.
Well, that's because in Revelation it tells his people to get out of her.
Right. Come out of her, my people, to be partakers of her sins.
They probably would go along with it.
And if you haven't seen my study on Islam and the Bible, which is followed up with Catholicism and the prophecies in Catholicism, how Satan has set up exact duplicate prophecies in Islam that match the Bible exactly to fool all of the Islams when the prophecies of the Bible come true. And it's the same thing in Catholicism. They have a very similar mirror of biblical prophecy that's the opposite, where the final emperor the final glorious pope, will be the Antichrist and the false prophet. And it will be the Muslim Mahdi and the false prophet, and probably Pope Leo now. Unless there's some new pope that will show up to do this. Everybody thought it was Francis, but of course it can't be him now. Even Francis thought he was the final pope.
Yeah, he did.
He thought he was going to bring the end time, but he didn't, obviously.
Boy, he's really sad right now, isn't he?
Oh, well, yeah. He's like the rich man in the parable Jesus told, where he's like, can you please let me just go tell my friends how wrong I was?
All these people that worshiped me.
Yeah.
How about?
And so he's, unfortunately, very sad to think of that, but
it is.
He had his choice, right? And God gave us myriads of information about the end time. This is why I have my website, all the videos we do, this live stream, to help people understand. The Bible, literally 30% of the Bible is prophetic, speaking of a future time. Now, a lot of it in the Old Testament, some of the Old Testament prophecies, we're talking about the Babylonian captivity. A lot of it is about that, but most of the prophecy in the Bible is literally talking about the last day that has not come to pass yet. God gave us all that information, and He told us to watch and be prepared. He gave us all that information so that we could know in the end time. And we do know. We're watching.
Well, the pre-trib rapture people are looking up. That's how they're prepared.
That's another sad thing. That
Jesus is like, what are y'all looking up for?
Maybe I'll do a rapture live stream after we finish the creation versus evolution, because that's
and whoever's still around for that.
Yeah, it's still it's a very fought about doctrine, but it's not really a controversial one, because if you just believe what the Bible says, there's really no question. We know, and I'll plan on that after we finish this creation versus evolution stuff. So I will end this live stream and I'll pray real quick and we'll say goodbye, and we'll pick it back up on Wednesday where we left off.
Okay.
Thank you, Lord, for everything, for giving us all of the history, all of what you're doing, what you're about to do. We thank you, Lord, for everything you've done and everything you're doing and everything you're about to do, Lord. We're grateful that you preserved your word for us. We're grateful that you've given us the knowledge to share with other people. I just pray, Lord, that you would lead people to us, to show them your truth so that they can hear it and lead them away from the millions of liars that are out there, Lord. Lead them to us so that we can help them to understand your word and your truth. In your name, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Oh, hi, Lainey. She said thank you.
Hey, Lainey.
So
Welcome.
Jody and Bob and Lainey and Jay.
Thank you
Nice
all.
to have you guys
Love
here.
you all. Thanks for being in chat.
Yeah.
We always appreciate comments and questions and anything you have to say, and all that watch and don't chat. We're just glad you're here watching and learning. So
yeah,
we love you all, and everyone who
but
watches
if
later.
anybody has any questions, if they have any comments, please get in touch with Dan. He would love to talk to you. Just make sure that you don't, because you don't want to have a question that goes unanswered. If it's important, then get in touch with them.
And he's used
Shoot
to
me an
that.
email.
Yeah, he's used to that. He gets a lot of emails.
Yeah,
a
there's
lot of
on the
people.
banner that's going across the bottom of the screen. There's, my X account, Facebook accounts, my email address, multiple ways to get a hold of me. So please do.
Jody said, "Amen. Thank you for the good words. Love you guys. Love you too, Jody.
Love you too, Jody.
I miss you, Jody. Yeah, I miss her being here. I miss
traveling for
giving
a
her
long
a
time.
hug. And Bob said, "Thanks so much. Great study. Thank you, Bob.
Yeah.
We love you. I'll
Glad
see you
to
in the
see you here
neighborhood
with
this
us,
week,
brother." Yeah.
Yes. So since you guys didn't hear the beginning of the thing, I'm gonna have to share it at the end. That little thing. Look, you're gonna have to listen to me and put up with me because y'all aren't doing what you're supposed to do. I know you do. Jody said, "I miss you." So, so I'm just here to tell you. I was hired to tell y'all that you're supposed to give it a big thumbs up. Okay. You see that little thing?
Like
It looks
button.
like this. I don't care where you are. You can be YouTube, Rumble, Facebook.
You're like Kamala. All of a sudden, you got a Southern accent.
Actually, I do have more of a Southern accent than I let on.
She
But
gets one every
anyway,
once in a
yeah, I
while.
get one. It gets other ways too. But I'm just saying, okay, the thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to that channel and follow us on Rumble right over there. And then I want you to turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any great uploads.
You wore her
And
out.
share this show with everyone you know.
Help us reach more people.
Yes.
And then head back on over on Wednesday.
Now. Banda, I am so glad I talked to you today.
I know. It's your lucky day. It's your lucky
so
day.
bossy.
It's your lucky day. Anyway, I love y'all.
Love you all. We'll see you on Wednesday.
Yeah, please.
Bye-bye now.
Please
Thank you,
come back.
Diane. Appreciate you.
Yeah, I love you, Sissy. Bye.
Bye.